Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Knife channel. In this video we're going to do our tops, chops, traps and slaps for round 13 of the 2024 NRL Fantasy season. So first big buy round, so a lot of moves being made. I guess keeping in mind it's only the 13 on field this week. You don't have to have 17. So just I guess be mindful when you're making the trades around those sorts of moves. You don't have to have everyone. You just have to have enough to get you through this week. So how it works for those that are new to the channel or to the concept, if we have a trading option this week that we think is a good idea, well, that's tops. Let's give them a thumbs up. If we've got an option that we think is a good idea to trade out, well, we're happy to give them the chop. If there's a trade-in option that we think might come back to burn us, well, it's probably a trap. And if we have a trade-out option that we think we should keep hold of, well, we need to give ourselves a slap. So as usual, we'll go by position, starting at hooker. And the best buy, or the top trade in this week, probably the best buy, particularly if you're looking for a cheapie, is Brendan Hands. So name to start, bottom dollar, 11 break even, so pretty much the perfect combination to make some money. He does also offer coverage in the halves, which is super helpful. So the dual position, the chance to make a bit of money while we're at it. Obviously the Eels have got Moses and Gutherson back, which is massive for the team. So I think, despite us talking about targeting the likes of Jerry Marshall King, Reid Marnie, Jaden Brayley, you've got Appy Coruscant next week. I think you can still bring Brendan Hands in and obviously, try to make a bit of money. On the chopping block, it's obvious Joey Lussick, named on the reserves. They do play the first game, so you can keep an eye out to see if he's playing. But you'd imagine at best he'll be named on the bench, which is only just going to absolutely take his value. So I think get out of the pick now. If you can't afford to go up, you can definitely go down to Hands. But, if you can go up to one of the keepers, absolutely, I think that is a great option. The trap this week, I've gone with Mitch Kenny. So, attractive sort of break even, nice middling price. It's not too hard to get from a Lussick to a Kenny. But I guess he does have that limited upside. He is very much just, a tackle bot and will distribute the ball from dummy half. It does have a try in him, don't get me wrong, but it's few and far between, particularly, I guess, with the Panthers sort of game style. So I think for that reason, I'd avoid Mitch Kenny. And the slap, I've gone with Appy Coruscant. So obviously missed out on Origin selection, which means he's going to be one of the big targets next week. So I'm already trying to make plans to bring him in next week. I think at the moment I've got Jaden Brayley. I should actually make money with that trade, which is pretty wild. So that's definitely one I've got, locked in for next week. So if you've got Appy Coruscant, I'd hang on. After this week, he'll cover the rest of the Origin buys. You don't have to worry about, the Tigers being on bye because they just won't be until round 26. Excuse me. In the middle, I've gone with Max Plath as my top pick. I guess Dolphins have that great Origin buy coverage where they cover around 13, 16, 19. I guess the thing to just be mindful of with that is they do not cover round 14. And they also have another buy in round 18. So round 18 is not so bad. It's only the Dolphins on buy. So as long as you don't have 15 Dolphins in your team, you should be okay. But next week it is the Roosters, the Raiders, and the Dolphins. So if you've got Angus Crichton, you've got K.O. Weeks, you've got Joey Manu, James Tedesco, and then obviously, you've got the likes of Ewan Aitken, Jeremy Marshall King. It starts to add up quite quickly. So just be mindful of that. But if you are looking for a middle that'll cover those buy rounds, he is my top pick. On the chopping block, I've gone with Ewan Aitken. Sorry, I've got Dolphins on the brain. Reuben Cotter is the on the chopping block this week. So obviously playing for Queensland. Does have a tendency to tail off because of the amount of energy he seems to expend for Queensland. Always seems to find a way to play 80 minutes, whether it's in the middle, on the edge, whatever they need. So yeah, I think he's done his job for us, got us in through the first part of the season, made a bit of money along the way, which was nice. But it's now time to get out of Reuben Cotter. The trap this week, I've gone with Victor Radley, who was sort of cropping up in a few teams according to the NRL Fantasy Stats site. Named to start on the edge this week, so you might play a bit on the edge, move to the middle, and play a bit of lock forward for a bit, but just not a lot of value. And particularly, the Roosters do have a bye next week alongside the Dolphins, so you might think, well, they're very similar price. What's the difference? Um, I guess just with Radley, I don't think he's not traditionally a big fantasy scorer, so I can't see that magically changing just because the world Roosters have named the world's smallest bench. Um, yeah, so I don't think Radley's a good pick. I'd rather play. And I've got Anfanua Blake as the slap. So a lot of people might be thinking, well, he didn't play last week. He's not playing this week. Those sort of suspensions are in club sort of things. They're usually only 1 week. A bit of a slap on the wrist. You did the wrong thing. Right? Sit this one out, and then we'll let you back in. So I think he's one of the ones that I'm looking to target next week, alongside Happy Coruscant. The third one, because I don't think I've got him in this video, but David Fafita. So we do have 4 trades, so it does make it possible. But I guess you definitely don't want to trade him out if you're going to want to trade him back in next week. It stands to reason. On the edge, I've gone with Scott Sorensen as my top pick. Um, so I guess the price is pretty decent, 558k. His dual position, which is super handy as well. And I guess he's ramped up back from his injuries. It's obviously been an interrupted start to the season. But we do know when he can get a decent crack at it that he does have the ability to go massive. So, um, if you are looking for a bit of edge coverage this week, I do like Scott Sorensen as a pick. On the chopping block, I've gone with Viliami Kikau, so out for a month with an injury. Um, obviously holding him was going to be helpful with a lot of the buy coverage. Um, you could go with like a Jacob Preston as an option, but he does come at an extra 100k or thereabouts on top of Scott Sorensen and doesn't offer the flexibility of the dual position. So, that's why I leant towards Sorensen. Obviously, Jamin Salmon might be a bit more locked in on that edge. So that's another option that you could consider. Um, but, I've gone with Sorensen this week. Just mix it up. Nafahu White is my trap. So, a bit like Victor Radley, named to start this week in the 13. You imagine he plays some decent minutes in the middle, given that they don't have a lot of middle coverage on their bench. But I just think, it's not worth it. He's only edge as well, which is weird. He's pretty much played as a middle all this season, but, because he's not starting in the middle, although he is this week, he just doesn't seem to get the dual position nod. And Angus Crichton I've got as this slap, so I guess you want to keep Angus Crichton. I can imagine him and Dave Fafita are going to be the two that you're going to want at the end of the season. Um, and, I guess it is hard to hold Angus when he's only going to play one of the next 4, whereas like Dave Fafita will play the next 3. We'll play the next, 5 or 6, up till round 17 he has the bye. Um, and I think that's their last one. So, if you bring in Dave Fafita next week, um, that's why we're targeting him. There is a temptation to use Angus's money to get to for feeder. But I guess if you can try and hold and get both, that's going to be the dream combination for the rest of the year. Into the halves, I've gone with Mitchell Moses as the top pick this week. Obviously, returning from injury, you know, ticks all the boxes that we like in a fantasy half, which is the main organizer, the main kicker, kicks goals as well, um, and I guess plays for a decent attacking side. They haven't been too flash, but the cavalry's back with Gutherson, Dylan Brown, obviously in a bit of form. Um, so I think if you are looking to bring in a half this week, he's the best option. DC I've got on the chopping block, so obviously playing Origin, which means he's out. And I think just because he's that slightly, below tier, he doesn't kick goals, which sort of, costs him a few points each and every week. But obviously he does have the kick meters and the dominant half sort of role. But I think, it's an easy move to go from him to Moses this week. Um, and there's other options as well. Um, so I wouldn't get into DCE. The trap this week, I had to mention Matt Burton because I think he was the third most popular trade in this week. I think people thought maybe he's 18th man, so he'll play. But I don't think any of the extended players have been named. Maybe 19 and 20 for each team can play, but the 18th man, hasn't been released. So in New South Wales case, that's Matt Burton. Felice Kafusi, I believe, is 18th man for Queensland. So for that reason, I think if you've got Matt Burton, don't trade him. Or if you've got Matt Burton, you hold him, but don't trade him in this week. He's not playing. And obviously, the fact that he is in and around the Origin team means that he is a risk of missing round 16 as well. Nico Hines, I've got as the slap. Obviously, it's a lot of money, $1 million sitting in the bank. You've got 110 break even, but we also have limited trades. So if you trade him out, it's going to cost you a second trade to bring him back in, which you're absolutely going to want to do. So, it is hard when we're trying to target guys like Fanua Blake, like Dave Fafita that aren't cheap. But I think, you've got to try to hang on to the likes of Nico Hines. It's not to say I won't do it, but, I think, again, as much as possible, we try to hold the keepers as long as we can. Into the centres, and the top pick this week, I've gone with Jacob Carraz. So obviously scored well on the weekend, which gives him a nice break even of 20. At 689, he's not the cheapest, but he is dual position. Again, the Bulldogs offer good buy coverage. And I think at the moment I've sort of targeted him and Ewan Aitken, as the keepers I'd like in the centres. Obviously, there is the likes of Ruben Garrick, Val Holmes, Charlie Manu. There's plenty of options, but I guess for me personally, I've already got Kiraz, which is one thing. But also, they do offer that really good buy coverage, which is going to be advantageous. So for that reason, I think I've got Kiraz as top. Ewan Aitken is a good option too. He's just slightly more expensive, slightly higher break even. So Kiraz gets the nod. On the chopping block, I've gone with Cooler. So couldn't find out much about the shoulder injury, if I'm being honest. If anyone knows, feel free to comment. But I don't think he'll be back for next week. So yeah, I guess it's unfortunate if you just brought him in playing fullback, thought he'd do all right, and then obviously he misses out last week. But I guess these things happen, so give him the chop. The trap this week, I've gone with Blaze Talangi. So as we said, all the assets are coming back for Para, which unfortunately has moved him to the bench in the 14 role. Was sort of hoping maybe they'd try and put Gutherson in the centres and give him an extended run at fullback, but wasn't to be. So again, if you've got him, you just hold him. He's going to be a number this week. Hopefully he can do a bit on Thursday night. Um, but definitely don't bring him in because I don't think that break even is gonna last too much longer. And the slap this week, I've gone with Ben Travojevic. So obviously, coming off the probably his highest scoring game for the season. So at 400k, nice break even, dual position. Obviously, after this week, his buy coverage will be a bit better. So yeah, I think Ben Travojevic is someone that you should try and hold. And wing fullback, so I guess the clear candidate for top pick this week is James Tedesco. Um, Not playing Origin, so that means he's playing this weekend. Decently priced, given what he can produce. Nice break even. Um, so if you want to bring in Teddy, you absolutely could. On the chopping block, I've gone with the hammer. So obviously the break even is a little bit high. Price is what it is. But he's only going to play 2 of the next 7 games, given that he's playing for Queensland, you'd imagine, for all 3. But then also the Dolphins have buys in round 14, round 18. So tough one to work around. I think there's definitely much better options at that price point that will be playing more regularly over the next few weeks, and then after Origin, if you like, you can bring him back in. He'll have a clean run through to the end of the season. A trap this week, I've gone with Joey Manu, and this is purely just down to the fact that he won't be playing fullback, as we're accustomed to at this time of year. Um, so if you've got him, you still hold him. As I said, he's in that conversation as being a keeper in the centres. Um, but I don't think you bring him in while Tedesco is playing fullback. And the slap this week, wing fullback, I've gone with Tyron Wishart. So obviously not playing this week, but has got that job security now with Munster out injured. And I guess at the price, you're not getting too much for him. And with the break even of 8, he's still got a lot of money to make. So, yeah, I think Tyron Wishart is one you hang on to and you try and, work your other assets to make sure you're covered for round 13. But we'll wrap the video up there. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, or thoughts, feel free to add them below the video. Give us a like if you enjoy this sort of analysis on the bit different. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.